Hyperfocus and special interests can be both a blessing and a challenge. In this episode, we're diving into what those experiences are like, how they manifest, and how to navigate them for yourself or your child. Let's find a way to make hyperfocus work for you and not against you.
Going to focus all in on hyperfocusing, which is this intense fixation of things. And the way that it works with our executive dysfunctioning is that sustained attention. Now, hyperfocusing is an intense time fixation on an interest or activity for an extended period of time. When autistic and ADHD individuals experience this type of hyper focusing, we become so engrossed on this task that we are blocking out the world around them. For example, for me, when I'm in a hyper focusing mode, I don't stop to eat, I don't stop to take a drink, I don't stop to do all of those little things. And then sometimes this even looked like forgetting to go pick up my daughter from school because I'm so focused on doing another task. And it happened. We just get so interested in it and our brain's just so fixed on it. It's so intense. On the other hand, sometimes those hyper focusing moments have allowed me to be super productive and get some amazing and phenomenal things done. But then I have to look at the cost and the benefits and if those really do, if they balance each other out. So for us as adults, when we look at something that we're hyper focusing on, it could be watching TV, it could be social media, it could be shopping, it could be whatever is holding our attention at any given point, and the result is the same. Unless something or someone interrupts us, we will just keep going and going. So, this is one of those things with ADHD, and especially I think with the inattentive type, is that society has come to believe that ADHD is its inability to focus. And that couldn't be further from the truth, especially when it comes to this hyper focusing thing. It's not that we have an inability to focus, it's that we have an inability to sometimes focus on the right things. So we think about hyper focusing, and I keep talking about the dopamine fix when I can accomplish a task and I feel really great about accomplishing that task. Hyper focusing is also, from research that's been put out there, is to be tied to that result, a lack of dopamine. So, dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters in our brain, and it's really active in the brain frontal lobe. If you remember the first episode that I did on the executive dysfunctioning piece, the executive functions are controlled by the frontal lobe. So when we have executive dysfunctions, we have a lack of dopamine being created. And then this lack of dopamine can also make it that much more difficult for us to be able to shift gear from doing something that's really interesting to us to doing something that may not be so interesting, but that has to get done. So this also will tie into our flexibility, which is going to be covered on another episode in podcast, probably the next episode, just so I can keep them tied together. So when we do those things that are rewarding to us, and especially when we're in that hyper focused mode, we keep feeding ourselves this dopamine and it's so rewarding for us. So then we keep persisting in those things where a neurotypical individual can just move on from those things. Like I said before, there is both. I found some great things have come out of my hyper focusing moments. For example, I can sit down, plan, strategize, and organize a great big project and break it down into these littler tasks that are a lot more manageable and doable. So sometimes hyper focusing can be an absolutely wonderful thing. Absolutely. But on the other hand, when we are so caught up in this hyper focusing moment, other things that are around us that need to get done or that we keep putting off, again, they don't get done. So that means missing like a deadline or a meeting, or it could mean for me forgetting to go pick up my daughter from school. So I was late for getting my daughter from school because I was so hyper focused in this thing. What we can do to help is we look for ways and we look for external ways that can help us break out of that hyper focusing or can cue us to redirect our hyper focusing into more normal looking things. So that looks like either setting a timer. And again, I would recommend using both a visual and an audio timer. So you have an alarm that goes off to keep. If you watch the movie Inception, that in order to kick them out of a dream state, they have this trigger music. So setting up something like that has helped me big time with my hyper focusing moments. And I've timed out my work batches to a specified YouTube playlist where I'm listening to this certain kind of music. It just gets me in intentionally, gets me into and then out of a hyper focusing mode. So things like that and computer messages if you're working at your desktop or phone notifications if that's going to help. Try to work on things and use the strategies that you know are going to work and then change those up because then we get into that temptation and that habit to just ignore and to snooze. So we also want to look at ways that we can make those like those non or those essential tasks that make seem boring for us to just make them a little more exciting. So for some, that can look like body doubling. That's getting yourself an accountability partner and doing tasks with someone else. That is something that I do offer to my clients, and it is something that I have found to be so helpful when I need to get those more mundane tasks done and out of the way. So when you are hyper focusing, you really are like you really, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just you're so intent on this goal, you're so intent on this project, and you're so intent on finishing it. And then the reward that you get after that, it's just our brains are so motivated. And after I complete one of those things from a hyper focusing mode, I'm so motivated and so just determined to go do other things. Hopefully, sometimes productive things, but not always productive things. It's just how it is. The other upside that I found with hyper focusing is that it substantially lessens my desire to go multitask. It substantially lessens my desire to put off things. And like I said, when I found something that I can just be extremely productive with, that's related to a bigger task or a bigger goal, when I'm in that hyper focusing zone, I can get so much done, so much accomplished. It's just managing the hyper focusing and making the hyper focusing work for me instead of letting the hyper focusing going somewhere that really isn't going to result in anything. And then that results in feelings of shame and feelings of guilt and just all these other negative things that make me not want to hyper focus and stuff. Just a quick recap. When we are working on those hyper focusing areas, set up cues and triggers that will both start your hyper focusing and get you out of the hyper focusing. That's the key. There's nothing wrong with hyper focusing. I think honestly, it's one of the best things about my autistic ADHD brain is that I have this ability to just narrow in, zone in, and hone in on something. But the trick is to use it productively. That is something I've worked on with myself using systems, strategies, and mindset. This is one of my hyperfixations and one of my hyper focuses is the research into it. It's the neurodivergent brain and what makes it different and why it's different and how it's different from a neurotypical brain. And then how we can adapt and use and utilize all of these mainstream neurotypical strategies so that they're working with our neurodivergent brains instead of against them. Because then we just go from this place of surviving and trying to pass by as a neurotypical individual to thriving as a neurodivergent individual and really embracing who we are and living our life to the fullest. So that is where I am in my life. That is my goal for you as well. I hope that you have a great rest of your day and I will talk to you soon.